As almost always, I'm working every week doing maintenance on the 150-gallon guppy aquarium. The guppies are a relatively new addition, but that's what we're going to call it from here on out, is the guppy aquarium. Now, this tank has so many plants in it, I'm constantly having to trim, I'm constantly having to move things, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. The weird thing is, now I literally have 4 different types of Pogostemon. We've got the Erectus, we've got the Stellatus octopus, we've got the Samsonii, and now we're introducing the Downoi, which I'm probably butchering that. Downoi, right? Something like that. Pogostemon helferi is what I've always referred to it as. It's much easier for me to say that as an American English speaker than the Downoi. I think it's similar to that. A lovely plant. I managed to get it from a fellow aquascaper, a fish tank enthusiast off of Facebook. So Joe Collins, shout out. I ordered a bunch of these plants and they came in fantastically. Totally happy with the quality and all that. It's just a matter of now adding some Pogostemon helferi to the aquarium to get it, set up into my tanks.
Considering how full this aquarium is, I'm almost always having to remove something before I can add something in. Now, it's important to be thorough when removing a plant from an area. It's very easy to just miss a plant or a stem or some roots or something like that. But it's pretty important to be thorough and double check where you're at so that you can be sure that you've removed whatever plant was there, because this is going to become much more of a problem later on down the line. The last thing you want to encounter is a bunch of little sprouts popping up where you have a new plant trying to take over an area. It's easy to read in a plant's description whether it's supposed to be in the front of the tank or the back of the tank, which is a helpful addition that we typically get here in the 21st century. But I always try to remind people there really are no rules to exactly how you're supposed to aquascape. And you're going to learn through experience of how your tank is set up, where the lights are, how much CO2 you have, and aesthetically how you really enjoy how the aquarium is set up. Subtle changes in mid-ground plants can really affect the look and appeal of an aquarium for you as a personal endeavor. And it's important to take the time week after week to kind of adjust things and make changes. And that's basically what I'm in the middle of here. This tank has many, many species of plants at this point, and it really has become a matter of patience to really figure out where the plants are exactly going to thrive in relationship with each other and with how the tank is operating. And I do have to admit, it does make my day-to-day a little bit better when I get a chance to move some plants around and make some changes. And I hope that's something that can, if it doesn't exist in your life, I hope it does, and you get a chance to give it a try. And if it already exists, I hope this is gives you some ideas about what you're working on currently.
This aquarium is coming along quite well, although it is definitely running, it's running full throttle at this point. There really isn't much else I can do to improve the situation. Everything is purling on a regular basis. I'm putting as much light as I possibly can in, CO2, the fertilizer, without completely throwing the whole system out of whack. But something that does get mildly neglected in this aquarium that I do have to start to make sure that I'm really marking down on the calendar is the water changes. That's going to be always the biggest, that's always going to be my biggest pitfall. As you guys know, I run my aquariums really understocked and oversized for what I have in them. Even a 150 gallon with 30 guppies in it, but then you add in the sump, all the plant material, all that kind of stuff that's going on in there. It is way understocked tank. So I do have a tendency to just kind of forget about a water change. Like, oh, it's been 2 weeks, it could go 3 weeks. So I am kind of streamlining how I'm doing my water changes, but I'm also starting to really utilize a calendar so I can actually mark it down. The cool thing with that is that's really just like mark it down on your calendar on your phone, right? Not a big deal. Let's turn the screen on. Keeps turning on. Mark it down on your phone. Super easy, just to pop it in onto the calendar on your phone. I've given the advice in the past, like go ahead and maybe get a whiteboard, maybe get something that you could manually write a note on. But it seems to be like it's 2020. I might as well just put it into the Google Calendar, and then I know I actually did it, and I have a running record of it. So I'm starting to do more and more of that and implementing the Google Calendar to keep track of what I'm doing with things as I am moving forward. I'm really happy with the Fluval lights that I got on here. I've been sort of in a tizzy trying to find a light that, in my opinion, is equatable to this Fluval light. This Fluval light is really fantastic. After having used it for about 2 years now, I think it's about 2 years now, maybe a year and a half. Let's say a solid year. Having used this light for about a year now, I can honestly say that I'm pretty happy with how well it is working out. It has not shown me to have a real deficiency for any of the plants that I have going on. Although it does, you do need to actually program it to do what you want it to do. So if you don't do that, it could be a problem, which I did have. One of the lights, I had manually changed the programming in it and realized that, most everything in it was all the way down at like 55% on a regular basis. So I have jumped that back up, and that seems to be, brought the light level back up to where I expect it to normally be. So user error does come into play sometimes, and that's my bad. So. As you can see in this aquarium, we've had to move a lot of plants around. We've had to make a lot of changes. But one of the things that one of the things that I was looking into was trying to figure out an exact identification of one of the plants that's in here. Typically referred to as super red, which is kind of a problem because we end up with a street name of Ludwigia super red, right? Turns out My inclination was correct, and the super red is Natans. So it's Ludwigia Natans of the red varietal. So you could say red, you could say super red at the end, but it does make it much easier to go, okay, it's Ludwigia Natans and it happens to be red. Now we have an actual identifier. As itemized by how many different types of Ludwigia are in just that tank alone, it's a perfect opportunity for people to start realizing that, like, we need to make sure that we're utilizing the identifiers here in the US that are the actual Latin names, and then we can follow through on that kind of stuff. So you don't end up having to do what I did, which is go ahead and buy 3 different samples from 3 different retailers, convert them from immersed grown to underwater grown, then compare everything and make sure that we have the same plant. Now, that's not my job. I'm not paid to do any of that kind of stuff. And as a matter of fact, I have to pay money to do that kind of stuff. And I think it's doing a real disservice to people when we're not utilizing the Latin names as much as we should, myself included. So I'm making a concerted effort to try and get better and better at utilizing the full name and not necessarily be stuck utilizing street names. So that's just a reality of, like, it's just a reality of, like, how people talk. You know, there's a lot of people out there that just like to go with the street names, which is weird. Hey, if this video was enjoyable, click the subscribe button, hit the like button, do all that kind of stuff. Watch all the other 1,000 videos I have up, and hit the like button on all those ones too. All right, later.